Hello, and welcome to Mean Street News. Mean Street News is here to provide accurate news to help citizens affect change in their local government and beyond. Being nice is overrated. It is time to be real. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean. The time to step up and step in is now. So please come join me, Katie, over on Mean Street News to discuss Ohio politics and beyond. I hope to see you there. Hello, and welcome to Mean Street. Hello and welcome to Mean Street News. My name is Katie. If you are new here, thank you for joining me. I'm happy to have you. And if you're returning, welcome back. Tonight we're going to take a break with the Ohio 4 case, and we are going to discuss Keith Faber. Now, who is Keith Faber? Keith Faber is a candidate for Ohio Attorney General, and he also... Hold on, I'll show you a picture. And he also is currently the Ohio Auditor of State. So you might ask me, Katie, why are we talking tonight about Keith Faber? And that's pretty simple. Keith Faber went to Avon Lake Republicans Club. Here's a picture of him. He went to the Avon Lake Republicans Club last week, and I decided to take that opportunity to go and ask Mr. Faber a few questions about Lorain County. We had a Lorain County Commissioner, David Moore, go to the auditor's office twice regarding a corrupt radio contract. He was accusing people of bid rigging and bid steering for a 6.4 that turned into a $7.7 million contract for the purchase of radios for firemen. And if you read the Chronicle or the Morning Journal, at some point you have seen, articles about this. And I want to start this by talking about Dave Moore. He recently, he's been all over the place. Everybody's, it's real easy to call somebody corrupt, but saying, Dave Moore corruption, he's corrupt, blah, 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 blah. Dave doesn't always do stuff that I like. And I've been called Dave Moore's puppet, which if anybody has ever met me, that's a laugh. I've never been anybody's puppet, but, I did meet Dave Moore when I joined the Young Republicans Club here in Lorain County. I went there and they were kind of a mess. And I started getting involved, and I started, noticing that these young Republicans that were supposed to be, campaigning for, Republican officials in the county and helping out that way were being used to attack the county commissioners. Now, I will be honest with all of you. At the time, I did not even know what a county commissioner was. And if you don't, the county commissioner is the fiduciary elected official that is responsible to, collect the money and then disperse the money in the county. Is the fiduciary. I can't think of the word right at the second, but his job is the budget, money, overseeing where money is spent, and other things. So I went to a commissioners meeting. I then found out, this club is being used to, weaponize itself against, offices for political endeavors of County Commissioner Michelle Hung at the time. Now, then it was all over this radio contract, and Michelle Hung and Harry Williamson, her then Lover wanted to spend $6.4 million no bid contract to award a company, Cleveland Communications, this contract to provide radios to 5 cities. Basically, they would just disperse the grant money. It was not a telecommunications system that the county actually wanted to bid. It was purchase of radios. Now, these cities had already gone ahead and purchased the radios, but there's an addendum in the contracts that they signed that if the county were to come on, that those expenses would be paid for by the county. Now, when Dave Moore got word of this, he contacted the Ohio Auditor's office and said, "Hey, you need to look into, as an elected official, I feel like you need to look into this bid rigging, bid steering, and this honestly corruption that's going on in Lorain County." Now, I'm going to share with you now the map that I made. I can't share the real map. I'm not allowed. So for I'm just not allowed. So I'm going to show you one that's not completely finished. Give me 1 second. I'm just sharing my screen. Got it. Okay, here we go. So here we go. Here is a map that I am allowed to show you. I'm going to make it full screen. Come on. No, I don't look at it that way. Shit. Now my internet's being funny. Come on. Give me 1 second, you guys. I'm trying to. Anyways. Yeah, here we go. This is what I want. Full screen. No. Stupid. Let's see if this works. If it ever loads. Okay, how sweet. It worked. Okay. So here is my map. Hopefully I'm not freezing up on you guys because my computer hates me. We are going to start talking about this side of the map. Okay. So Michelle Hung and Dave Moore win their election in 2020 for commissioner. This would be the first time in 80 years that the commission is under Republican control. I believe first time. I might be wrong, but I believe first time. Don't quote me on it. So when they got into office, Michelle Hung and her then lover, and they were lovers before she got elected, Harry Williamson, they actually met on the campaign trail. He was the AFL-CIO union president from 2014 to 2020. He began an affair with then candidate in September of 2020 and secured a union endorsement for her. Well, then she turned around and was the deciding vote to hire him for a $70,000 a year job for director of 911. These two then met with Mission Critical Partners, who's out of Pennsylvania, and Ellen Close with Cleveland Communications, and people, firemen and fire chiefs from the 5-city projects. That is Sheffield Village, North Ridgeville, Avon Lake, Sheffield Lake. Elyria was involved, and so was Chief Weatherby out in Wellington, and so was Chief McCann, who was in the police at the time, and a representative from the sheriff's office, Corey Shaver. So she got together with CCI and Mission Critical Partners, and they decided that they wanted to use American Rescue Plan dollars to award a $6.4 million contract to CCI. Well, when Commissioner Dave Moore heard about this, he said, absolutely not. You know what I mean? It's not a thing. We're not awarding somebody a no bid contract. And then the war between these two. started. She, as a Republican, then jumped ship with Dave Moore. She got together with Matt Lundy. These two then worked together with all of these people and went against the county prosecutor at the time because he wasn't, pushing the contract through. She worked with the sheriff at the time because he was upset because he was going to get money for these radios. There was also like some weirdness going on with Dana Golner and Sheriff Lavorchik out of Ottawa County. These two, our current county prosecutor, Tony Sillo, and our former county prosecutor, Dennis Wills, both started working at the sheriff's office and then started working against J.D. Tomlinson as well. And a lot of this has to do with this corrupt contract that is still to this day, 5 years later, going on. They actually ended up suing us for RICO, suing the commissioners over RICO claims that they are guilty themselves of. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that map, but you see where I'm going with that. So Dave Moore calls out the corruption. I then, in 2000, hold on, why am I not adding on my screen? Come on. Oh, because I didn't click that. Sorry. Okay. I then, at the time, I didn't know any of this was going on. Well, I knew this was going on when it was going on, but I didn't know until later. I joined the Young Republicans of Lorain County. And I quickly realized that the Young Republicans of Lorain County were not interested in, I was actually in the newspaper, you can look it up, look up my name. I realized that they were not interested in doing Young Republican stuff, but they were more interested in attacking the commissioners on behalf of Michelle Hung. I didn't know at the time even what a commissioner was, to be honest with all of you. So I decided to go to their meetings. I then, started talking to, people and figuring out what was going on. And I realized really quickly it was over this contract for the safety forces and being pushed by Michelle. So then I started a series that you can look up on my podcast, Mean Street News. Apple Podcast, Spotify. If you just look up Mean Street News, I have 16 episodes on there that cover the Lorain County corruption. You can also go to my website, meanstreetnews.com, and I have on my blog, I have plenty of articles describing what went on here. And I also have a timeline, and then I also have all of the episodes on my site as well if you want to go back and watch. Tonight, I'm going to give you a brief overview. But since I saw last week that Keith Faber was going to be in Avon Lake, I decided I was going to pay him a visit and ask him questions that I was truly dying to ask him. And the main question being, why did you allow your investigators to botch this investigation? After I received a recording of his last investigator, Greg Kapinski, pretty much saying that I spoke to the bosses in Columbus. They wanted me to call you. They wanted me to tell you that we're not going to impede on your investigation, even though Commissioner is saying your investigation itself is corrupt. That basically we're not even investigating the claims that were made previously in 2021. And we're not going to get in your way pretty much. And actually what they ended up doing was assisting them on the radio investigation to go after our commissioners, and then helped to assist in basically killing it, and also assisted them going after our county prosecutor, J.D. Tomlinson, in regards to all of the stuff with his girlfriend, Battistelli. And, they said on the depositions for that, and based on anonymous letter they received, which I ended up correcting and sending back to their office. So hopefully, Keith, you read that and saying like how they were wrong about this whole story. So tonight I'm going to play you what I said last Thursday, and then I'm going to play the recording that I was told that I was a liar about. And then we're going to go over just a couple of videos from my original investigation just to show you that, what I say in this little 9 minutes is completely true. That the collusion, the corruption that happened here in Lorain County, and the fact that elected official David Moore came to you and said that there's corruption around a contract and bid rigging and bid steering and bad behavior on behalf of from the firemen and other elected officials and union members and this county commissioner who just went crazy, pretty much jumped ship, and now is working with the Democrat on behalf just because of this one contract. And to this day, it affects our county. We paid over $1 million in lawsuits and settlements. We still are. We're still in court with CCI. They're still attacking our county commissioners because they have to get off of a tower. They have to get their equipment off of it, and they have nowhere else to go. And if they have nowhere else to go and their system's not going to work, that's problematic. Now, I want to be very clear with you guys. Cleveland Communications radio system, I'm going to say system is ran by an FCC license that is owned by the city of Avon. So taxpayer owned FCC license that the taxpayers of Avon paid to actually obtain. That's how they use their broadcast. And then all of his equipment is on public water towers, publicly owned equipment. He doesn't own any towers. He's never built any towers. Then on the back end, after, he's using our FCC license, our equipment, he then charges the cities $10 a month per radio and then charges them to get on his system. Quote, it's our system. And then you as taxpayers are paying that when they could easily pay the county just a charge to get, their radios programmed and then get on that. CCI never had their own system. They use all public property, including the FCC license they're on that they sublet to run their system, and then charge us for it, which I think is fraud in itself. They sold us fraudulent equipment that didn't work in Huron County. They ended up selling us knowing that it wasn't going to work and then lied for years on that. And the whole time, you all were, the public was propagandized by the media, using the media, using elected officials, messages, and, the newspaper just went along with it to help the bad guys here. So I was quite I'm quite frustrated with that. And I want to know why the state auditor didn't take the claims of a sitting county commissioner seriously and investigate the sheriff's office when he asked him to. Because as soon as this contract was rescinded, and it was rescinded because on the last day in power, Michelle Hung and Matt Lundy had a special meeting. It wasn't a regularly scheduled meeting, a special meeting, and passed this corrupt $7.7 million radio contract. It was then rescinded within 6 weeks with the new commissioner Riddell coming on board with Dave Moore. They rescinded this contract, and after that, the Fire Chiefs Association, the Sheriff's Department, the Fire Chiefs Association asked the Sheriff's Department to investigate our county commissioners and the prosecutor's office. Now, why the prosecutor's office? Because the prosecutor did not pass that contract. They did not okay that contract. That contract was reviewed by an administrator, and this was admitted by Chief Weatherby, by administrator of the county, J.R. White at the time. It was never looked over and approved by the prosecutors, which is really out of whack, just because they wanted to push this through, like I said, the last day in power, and everything like that. Now, the first investigator, Todd Clark, he actually investigated this. He actually saw what was going on in December of 2022 while interviewing Chief Reese over in North Ridgeville. He came and basically said to Reese that, the only person that isn't questioning the process of this contract, that is pushing an actual vendor, is Michelle Hung. So really, he's saying the only corrupt person in this is Michelle Hung. Well, then the guy's transferred to BCI, regardless of who transferred him there. He's transferred to BCI, which was a promotion probably for him. But his investigation was taken over by Monolly and then eventually Kopinski, who killed it, but Monolly, and nothing was done after December of 2022. Now, what's interesting is when they transferred into BCI, a couple weeks later, Michelle Hung and Matt Lundy passed the $7.7 million contract that Todd Clark said was corrupt to begin with. And that, the bid rigging and the bid steering and the bad behavior was on behalf of CCI and Michelle Hung. Now, in the process of this, and if we go back to my map, I'm not going to do that now. There was a man named Dana Gollner. Dana Gollner had approached Alan Close, owner of CCI, and said, I'll get this passed for you for sure, for 10% of the contract. 10% of a $6.4 million contract is $640,000, 7.7700. And then he went back to him after the 6.41 when Alan Close said, I can't afford that. I'll give you 5%. He said, well, then just ask for more money. And, raise the bid, and then you will have the money to cover, because many hands, and he said this quote, and Alan Close admits this, many hands need to be paid. So we wonder why, for years this contract was brought up and, the company's fighting us so hard. It's because I don't think people got paid, that we're going to get paid on this contract. Because the funny thing is while they were fighting all this, they already had the radios. The cities had already purchased the radios, already signed a contract with CCI. But, and this is why they're upset, Michelle Hung and Harry Williamson had promised them, what I believe, had promised them that the county was going to come in and reimburse them, because they would have with the multi-million dollars. And here's that contract I want to show you all first real quick, and then we're going to get into what I said. The completion customer designs 1.5, a date no earlier than 6 days after the expiration of the program window. We would have paid him $3.1 million. The completion and installation of portables for local governments and the installation of the console and the dispatch center. The console is just so the portables work together. The completion and installation of mobile radios. So I want to be very clear to you all. This was not a telecommunications contract that was eventually then passed and given to Marks, whatever. This was simply for radios. System acceptance as determined by the county's consultant on the project, which was Mission Critical Partners out of Pennsylvania. Okay. All of this was our COVID money for radios that they had already purchased. Now, I, in this video, talk about Dave Moore. Everybody, I know I've been accused of being a puppet for Dave Moore, whatever. I really don't care. Never been a puppet for anybody in my life, but I do recognize when someone's right, and Dave has been right. I'm going to start this thing with Dave gets a bad rap in the paper. It's really easy just to blame one person for doing something and, making, the crowd a witch hunt. You know what I mean? It's easy to do that. He's really been through the ringer, I will say, and he stuck around for the county. He saved the county, millions. And I'm going to start this by reading an excerpt from his new book, More at War. I actually just got this. I started reading it, and I really liked what he said in the preface, and I really think it covers who Dave Moore is. Okay. And eventually, even if you hate him, you eventually like him. It's really kind of funny. And I don't agree with everything with Dave. And Dave would be the first person to tell you that I don't agree with everything that Dave Moore says and does. But you have to be able to, agree and disagree with people at times. You can't just always be like, oh, you're the devil. It doesn't work like that. So this is what he says. I'm going to read his preface real quick. Okay. He says, I have tried for years to write a book about my experience in the political arena. Once I finished for the 2024 campaign season, many pending lawsuits prevented me to tell my story. I still continue to keep journals and writings about the day-to-day activists as I continue to keep copies of press articles about the commissioner's seat. I'm getting so tired of the divisions in our county regarding politics, but also know it has always been around since our beginnings. My only solace is that I have the fortitude for some reason to be in public office. My goal for this series of books is to show others that they too can run for office and maybe show how I deal with overcoming adversity for public good. The rewards for our future generations to stay, play, and work in our county was always the end goal. That means jobs and smart growth. Too many times the public seems only worried about the national issues, whereas the most important parts of government is local. And when a key issue comes up and you don't have local representatives that have a backbone to do what is right, we get mob rule. And they make decisions to keep their jobs, not decisions that are right for the area of representation. And he's right. It's local, issues are important and people don't run because of what's happened in the last few years with the attacks, the political attacks and the investigations in the court and the excuse me. It doesn't. So we're gonna start with what I said to Keith Faber, and then I'm gonna play you guys some stuff. So if you haven't caught it yet, if not, if you guys have already caught this, you want to see it, skip ahead 8 minutes, okay? But I gotta play this for people that haven't seen it yet. And give me 2 seconds. I'm gonna load this up here. Share screen. I know it takes me a second. My husband hates this when he watches these. He's like, "There's a pause." I'm like, "Get over it. Get over it." It takes me a minute to load up my screen. All right, I'll be back.
Was doing, and that's what we continue to do. I don't know why they don't want to give us the information. They say privacy and all kinds of other excuses. The fact of the matter is the law says I have the same access they do. I also have the same privacy protocols that they have. So it's yes, ma'am.
Since you're talking about fraud, I want to talk about Lorain County. And I have to give you a little bit of context before my question, just so you can answer my question appropriately. So our county commissioner, Dave Moore, came to you twice, once in 2021 and again in 2023 with evidence of public corruption. Instead of helping, your office and its investigators participated in weaponizing our county officers against then Commissioner Dave Moore, Jeff Riddell, and our former prosecutor, Democratic prosecutor J.D. Tomlinson. And just because they were against using ARPA funds to benefit and award a multi-million-dollar no-bid contract to CCI for radios on behalf of a corrupt, clan of people. And I'm going to say clan because it was a lot of people. To top this all off, I got your documents from your original investigation. So your original investigation found Commissioner Moore claims against Michelle Hung, which you all know in this room. We've all seen it for the last 4 years, and many others conspiring with a private company, CCI, to award this contract to be true based on recordings and reports from your office. Todd Clark, he was your investigator, did an amazing investigation. But when his investigation was done, when you could actually prove that corruption was happening, you all transferred him to BCI. The next investigator did nothing. And your final investigator, Craig Kapinski, and I have the phone call that confirms this, came and called Van Zandt and said, "We're not going to invest." We were told by the big boys in Columbus, big bosses in Columbus, he said, "We're not going to investigate your investigation," which is the reason Commissioner Moore was reaching out to you all in the first place, is because the sheriff was using his office to go after the commissioners over not passing a contract they wanted. And your investigator did an amazing investigation. I just have to say that. Like the recordings, his everything was great. So this scandal has cost the taxpayers over $1 million in legal fees and settlements, and currently is ongoing because CCI is suing the county commissioners over false RICO allegations, even though they're the one. This is a RICO investigation, since they're the ones actually are doing the RICO, beginning in 2023, which has cost us a shit ton of money. Even worse, this conflict has caused a great loss of public trust, like a lot of public trust. It's been all over the news. So why should Lorain County constituents put you in the Attorney General's office when your office, and I believe yourself, because the bosses in Columbus, allowed public officials to weaponize our government? Would you ever be willing to relook into what happened here in Lorain County regarding the CCI investigation?
I don't have all those facts right in front of me. I can tell you our professional staff make every decision about what to investigate. So anybody who tells you,
I have the recorded phone call. I have the recorded phone call. I'll send it to you tonight. I'll send it to you tonight.
I can tell you that the
Greg
people who make
Kapinski.
decisions on that are our professional staff.
All right, we're going to pause right there. I want to play you guys the phone call since he decided to call me a liar, because that's exactly when he's saying, I don't, it's semantics when you're saying, I don't believe somebody. And then, basically saying, well, I don't have all those facts and in front of me. Well, Keith, I have the facts in my head straight from the dome piece, bro. I have the facts. So I find it really, I hate being called a liar. That drives me crazy. And that's exactly what Greg Kapinski said to Captain Van Zant. And we're going to play that right now. In 2 seconds, just loading this. No, that's not the one. No, that's not the one I want. Hold on. I gotta open the right one. Katie. Let's see. Kapinski. Come on. Clip one. Where are you? Here we are. I think this is it. Yeah.
Hey, how are you? I'm good. Yourself? So? Well, all right. Here's what I got. Yeah. I was asked.
Now, real quick, this is in May of 2023. This investigation started in February of 2022. This is the third investigator. This guy came in just in May after David Moore sent a letter. And here's the letter. I'm going to show you guys real quick. Sent a letter April 21st of 2023 discussing the sheriff and his conflicts and being compromised. And we're going to go over that after this whole recording. But after this, Greg Kapinski calls Detective Van Zant, who is very much involved in this contract thing, and says pretty much, I have a message from my bosses in Columbus. We're not going to impede on your investigation, which means, and we're not really investigating it anyways. It's open, but it's not active.
By my bosses in Columbus, okay, to inform you and also the sheriff, and I have a voicemail with the sheriff, okay, that we received, I won't even turn in a letter because it's 98 pages long, okay, but we received a packet from an attorney from Alner Attorneys. Yeah. Yeah. And the gist of it is they are requesting an investigation into the circumstances relating to a potential contract between Lorain County and Cleveland Communications, okay, TCI, for the public safety radio. My bosses want me to assure you and also the sheriff. Yeah. Let me see my note here. That at no time will we interfere with the sheriff office investigation. Okay. Or at no time will we ever ask the sheriff to use their term, stand down on their investigation. Okay. I'm just doing what the big guys say. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. I'm also going to inform you that I cannot release this letter they sent us because we still have a open, right, although currently not active investigation. Got it. Yeah. Our response was from one of our attorneys is that, let's see, we will not be altering the course of our investigation or starting a new one based on these circumstances that they gave us. Okay. We also cannot initiate an investigation to prevent another agency's investigation from proceeding. Right. Let's see. And the last thing on here is it appears that the Lorain County Sheriff's Office is already committed to embarking on an investigation of their own. That office is well aware of our office's investigation and this knowledge has not deterred them from proceeding.
Okay.
In closing, we will not enhance or initiate another investigation into the matters at issue here.
Okay. And those are your
So in English, I don't know what the hell that means.
and those are your people that are saying that, correct? That's your people's response to the packet?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Yeah.
Can you tell me when you received the packet? I mean, that's all I'm asking. I don't want to see the packet or asking you to forward it.
On April 24th, we received your April 21st letter.
Okay.
So it appears they sent the letter on the or dated their letter the 21st of April, and we got it on April 24th.
Okay. All right, I understand.
And I know it's been 2.5 weeks, but again, that's how the state,
Oh, I get
quick they move.
it. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I do appreciate you giving us the heads up. Yeah. Okay. That's not a problem.
Okay, and I have a call on the sheriff just to explain the same to him.
Exactly. Okay.
So, yeah, Keith, hold on. So, yeah, Keith, your investigator, even though he received new information, was told by his bosses in Columbus, the boys in Columbus, the big bosses, that he was not going to be altering course of their previous investigation, which means we deaded this. We're not going to look into it, even though more corrupt behavior has occurred. And we have a public official sending us a 90-page letter and more evidence later. We're not going to intercede on the sheriff's investigation, even though the sheriff knows the state auditor has been investigating. We're still not going to get involved in their investigation. We're not going to initiate a new investigation into the sheriff's corrupt behavior. And, that is a huge issue for me because, the one thing I've noticed about the state auditor's office is a lot of ex-cops. Keith Faber's an ex-cop. Greg Kapinski, ex-cop. Kevin Monley, ex-cop. Even Todd Clark, the original investigator, who was a great investigator, by the way, and he actually was in Cleveland. He exposed corruption in Cleveland, so that's why they transferred him to the auditor's office in the first place. He exposed corruption in Cleveland. He actually did a good job. But when he was, on the path of exposing what was going on here in Lorain County, they transferred him to BCI. So, yeah, Greg Kapinski did call Van Zandt in 2023 and said, we received a letter from the county commissioner asking us to look into what we're going to look into after we're going to see the letter after Keith Faber finishes telling me how I'm a liar, and me basically being attacked at the Avon Lake Republicans Club for speaking, for free speech. You all hate speech. We're not going to continue to investigate because we deaded this. And then they actually got involved from there, from the sheriff's investigation. They actually got involved more, and Kevin Monley ended up investigating the office ended up investigating J.D. Tomlinson. So we're not going to get involved in the corrupt investigation, but we're going to help the corrupted peoples investigate the county prosecutor because we don't like him because he didn't do what we wanted him to do, and he didn't go after the commissioners, and he didn't approve this contract we wanted him to approve, and he didn't have our back and assign a special prosecutor to weaponize the sheriff's office even more. So I'm not a fucking liar, Keith. Gang, gang. Let's finish playing this. Greg Kapinski called Detective Van Zandt. I have the phone call. I'll send it to you tonight. That's what I'm saying. Would you be willing to relook into this entire investigation? I mean, I have 27.
What you have to say, then you listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
Let's do this slowly. Finish what you want to say.
Well, I want you to relook into this because it's ongoing. This company that wanted a $6.3 million, which turned out to be $7.3 million, using our ARPA funds, COVID funds. Okay, they passed it the last day they were in office. Our commissioners rescinded it, thank God. But all of our cities picked up contracts based on the promises of a corrupt county commissioner and her boyfriend, Harry Williamson. Our county commissioner, Dave Moore, looking out for our tax dollars was, and you all in this room know, Dave Moore has been very vocal about what happened here. So it goes to your office. Your first investigator, I implore you to look at your first investigation. Your first investigator said the only person corrupt here is Michelle Hung and CCI. He said it. And then you all transfer him to BCI after he's done.
First off, we don't transfer people to BCI. BCI doesn't work for us. He might have.
He was transferred. He was transferred. He was transferred. Your next investigator, no, but Monolly, your next investigator works against JD Tomlinson, gets involved in that case somehow when he was brought in for fraud for CCI, gets brought in that case. Then Kopinski calls Detective, I have the phone call, Detective Van Zandt, and says the big bosses in Columbus told me to not investigate. And Moore sent you 900 pages. I mean, he didn't send you like, oh, I think there's corruption here. He sent you an investigation. And Kopinski, I believe, gave it to Van Zandt, which is, I think, needs to be looked into. And I'm asking you, as a constituent, as a graduate of Avon Lake, by the way, if you would be willing to look back into that investigation. Because it's
I'll
ongoing.
answer that last part, okay? I can tell you I am vaguely familiar with this whole investigation, vaguely. I would be happy to have our people take a look at it again to see if there's something they missed. But all of our decisions on investigations, when they get all of the information,
I have it.
presented back to a prosecutor to take a look at. And what I recall here is that this was a contract dispute. Now, having said that, I'll take a look at it. If you've got a tape from one of our investigators that said somebody in Columbus told them not to look at something, I want to see it.
Okay, I'll send it to you
I'm
tonight.
in those meetings,
Yeah.
and I don't believe anybody in Columbus ever told one of our investigators not to go.
I have the
where facts
recording.
are.
I have the recording.
And let me finish, please.
Yeah.
Please
I don't
do
like
that.
being called a liar. I have the recording.
I'm not calling you a liar.
Well, you're telling me you don't believe that. So
No, I'm telling you. that
you're
that
saying it
didn't
without
happen.
the semantics.
It's very possible. that the person
Semantics.
who told you something might have been mistaken.
oh no, I have the call.
Yeah, really,
Oh, everybody in here knows this. You all know this.
Okay, ma'am, for the good of the order,
Uh-huh.
I'm sure you have legitimate things.
So yes or no,
It
you'll
sounds
look back
like-
into it.
Sounds like Mr. Faber is gonna be responsive, but for the good of the order, let's.
Well, we all should know. I mean, you all were propagandized the last 5 years. I don't think so. You're running for attorney general. You should be willing to be looking at public corruption.
You're so. He did say follow
And
up.
I'm being nice. I'm not being mean.
Ma'am, please. For the good of the order.
Excuse
we can
me.
wrap it up.
No,
Don't
I'm
be
sorry.
rude.
Look, we're the new generation. We're the 80s babies. We question everything, okay? We are the comer up.
Or Chris.
My wife and I, Jay, we're the new generation for the Republican Party. We're the youngest ones in here. Look around.
I'm going to stop it there, but he was done. He was sick of them, coming at me over asking, some questions. And yeah, I kind of went in on Keith Faber. You know what I went in on Keith Faber was when he called me a liar. Call me a liar. Tell me I don't have a phone call of your investigator in Van Zandt, corrupt Van Zandt, who was sexting the then prosecutor, J. Tomlinson's girlfriend, and trying to get him to help him in setting up J.D. Tomlinson so he would lose the election, which he did. So you won. You mean you got what you wanted. It's crazy. So let's start. The first time Dave Moore asked for help was in 2021. And here's the letter, okay, that he sent the state auditor's office. And we're going to read this real quick, okay? Well, not the whole thing, but the main points. So we're going to start from the beginning. We're going to start in 2021, okay? And then we're going to go to where we landed with Kopinski in 2023 and how he wouldn't look into anything, okay? He said, I'm a county commissioner in Lorain County. I'm reaching out for your help. The Lorain County is currently in disarray by the firing of County Administrator Tom Williams. Tom Williams was fired because, basically Williamson was fired and he was a whistleblower against Michelle Hung's affair. So she terminated him. Okay. My colleagues terminated Mr. Williams August 18th, a month to previous attempts. So multiple times tried to terminate him. The county prosecutor and outside legal counsel warned the commissioners not to do a termination as this would be retaliatory. Tom Williams appeared to have become a whistleblower when he informed the county assistant prosecutor on July 17th, 18th, 19th, Commissioner Hung confessed to the following items: that she was having an affair with 911 director. She was a deciding vote to hire. Hung finally admitted to the affair on July 28th in executive session, and in the public on August 11th. A video of Hung and Williamson kissing on County 911 Gateway Center came out on August 5th. Commissioner Hung and the 911 director, Harry Williamson, former AFL-CIO president for Lorain County and campaign manager for J.D. Tomlinson, the prosecutor, were meeting with Cleveland Communications to push a then $6.4 million no-bid contract for Cleveland Communications and to use the American Rescue Plan dollars, which is COVID money. Commissioner Hung had started using her position to bully employees that spoke out against the 911 director, Williamson, the latest being on July 14th and 16th. Commissioner Hung stated that 911 director Williamson only had one job to do: oral sex on her. Commissioner Hung claims that 911 director Williamson had a video. I will verbally discuss what is on this video via a phone call or in person. And I'm sorry I have to bring this back up, but the video was, she tried to extort the prosecutor pretty much, and said that I had a video of your mother performing an act on Harry Williamson, her then boyfriend, and that he was going to use that. Told him multiple times, even said that in the sheriff's investigation. And I believe it was to extort him, to get him to go after the commissioners over, his claims. Commissioner Hung claims Director Williamson and his family member of J.D. Tomlinson's would meet up to have sex in cheap motels. Commissioner Hung made it clear that she was pursuing Mr. Williamson prior to taking office, and Tom Williams is willing to sign an affidavit for all of the following. He's requesting your help as the prosecutor's office is in a difficult, tight corner right now. The prosecutor's office would do it, but they can't because of he feels being extorted. The former 911 director, AFL-CIO president, Mr. Williamson, could use the video to his benefit. In addition to the details mentioned above, Commissioner Hung and Commissioner Lundy have announced that they moved the deputy director into an interim role of the interim county administrator. This action was not voted on during our board meeting or an executive session. I found out about this appointment when I opened the Friday morning newspaper. So after, Tom Williams was gotten rid of, they promoted somebody and did not even vote to do so, which is against their rules. I wish to address Commissioner Hung's response to the Chronicle Telegram. I'm not resigning, and anyone who has actually been a part of this political stunt will have to consider the consequences. The next day, Tom Williamson was fired. That was retaliatory firing. 102,000 additional items to share, including $102,000 in no bid contracts to 911 for 911 to Cleveland Communications on 4/28/21. Mission Critical, a contract hired to investigate which system is the best for Lorain County, informed me in a meeting with 911 director, the president of Cleveland Communications, and others on 6/14/2021 that we did not need to go out for bid on $6.7 million for Cleveland Communications to provide a countywide 911 coverage. Which they weren't doing. They were providing radios on his system. I had a lot of people contact me about this whole Williamson and Cleveland Communications relationship, and can share those comments via phone or in person. When I sternly said I would not allow a no bid contract for $6.7 million, I left the meeting, and my administrative assistant stayed in the meeting and informed me later that Ellen Close, the president of Cleveland Communications, stated that Michelle Hung needed to form an alliance with Commissioner Lunder to get this done. Crazy. Commissioner Hung approved the hiring of her husband's boss, his daughter, Haley Noble, without informing anyone of the relationship. Commissioner Hung's husband, Jeffrey Hung, is the national sales manager for Sherwin-Williams. In January 27, she approved a $1,200 purchase for paint from Sherwin-Williams. Commissioner Hung tried to get a solid waste funds for a project in Avon that was being managed by Patrick Noble, Sherwin-Williams executive, and her husband's boss, the director of solid waste. Commissioner Hung tried to hire her brother. Commissioner Hung tried to push the administrator to create a position of job and family services for her sister-in-law. And there are emails that somehow ended last week. She was appointed herself as the liaison overseer of 911 department and will be overseeing all expenses. I would like to provide more supporting documentation. Now she also, which is not on this letter, her and Harry, she approved and the board approved a $37 remodel to make a sex room in 911. A soundproof, vision-proof office. That was Harry Williamson's office that they, could have rendezvous in. which is fucked up. So then after this, wasn't really even looked at. So then we made the claim. The auditor's office came in February 2022 with subpoenas for everybody and said, we are going to investigate Lorain County's corruption. And I'm going to play the first interview with so here, this is where Dave Moore made the claim. This is the first thing I'm going to play. Dave Moore made the claim. This is with Alan Close, owner of CCI, made the claim that Moore was not on board and agreed with him, was not on board with the $6.7 million no contract.
Questions from
There's nobody's told you, hey, he's got some kind of deal with Marks, or he's a Marks guy, or
I'm sure this comment is probably part of your investigation that I'll just lay on you now. After he got what satisfaction from his consultant, he had to excuse himself for a meeting, and as he left the room and the door closed, and it was my salesman, Russ Scarborough, Michelle Hung, Harry Williamson, and two unidentified ladies from the county sitting across the table from us. I looked right at Michelle Hung and I said, I don't think he's on board with the project, and the project being adding the additional 5 sites and tying them to the original
total project. Whether you did it or Marks did it or anyone.
No, from my perspective,
from just
the Harris project.
Okay,
right. One of those 2 ladies subsequently turns out to be his administrative aide, and went back and told him about that. Now, Michelle's comment to me was, I said, if he's not going to be on board, you need to reach out to Matt Lundy, the other commissioner, to see if you.
Now, what he says is unsure because she ended up siding with Matt Lundy. She ended up switching sides and switching parties because, her Nick, her paramour, was a hardcore Democrat.
See if you can get him on board with the project.
Gotcha.
And she said, we don't. He was. I said, if he's not going to be on board, you need to reach out to Matt Lundy, the other commissioner, to see if you can get him on board with the project.
Gotcha.
And she said, we don't cross party lines in this county. That was her statement back to me, and that's where it dropped.
Okay.
Later on, I found out that Moore was highly incensed, as it was told to me, that I had made this comment and I should apologize to him. So I attempted to apologize to him, and he wouldn't take the apology.
Who told you that he was upset about it?
Michelle and Harry both.
Okay, and that's from some
independent. Harry would have said it, and then Michelle would have said it, and they said reach out to him. And there's, I added some text. I have some text messages from Michelle, and I added those in the thumb drive this morning.
Okay, I appreciate that.
So, and you'll see that
back and
early
forth.
on. Yeah, they're. I couldn't take all of them out and just import it. I had to do screenshots.
Okay,
but they're in there.
Okay, fair enough. So.
So that was the first one of Alan Close, saying, I looked at Michelle, just like Dave admitted at that meeting, and said, you need to work with, we need to get Lundy on board. And she says, we don't cross, county line. We don't cross party lines in this county. Well, apparently she did. Just about a month after this, kind of crossed when her paramour was fired due to Michelle being the deciding vote in the affair and everything. She was mad. She was mad, and she really wanted this contract passed. And then, so my next one is going to be, he talks about, now there's an email, and I'm going to pull up this email that Alan Close had wrote to another county that Dick Miller had gotten. And Dick Miller is with Marks Communication. And when I've talked to and this is on recording, so I can say this, but when I've talked to Dave personally too, he said that he wasn't on board with either Marks or CCI. He was actually looking at keeping our people, the SU Communications, and maybe expanding that. And honestly, when he first met with both of them, he said I had to take a shower. I just felt gross. Like it was just the whole thing, it was gross. But then he, met with Marks more often, and they wanted a county system, and they ended up going with Marks because it was more economically beneficial to the taxpayers and saved us money and has a better system. I mean, you can, with Marks, you can stand in Lorain County and you can clearly talk to Cincinnati. I mean, that's the Marks system. But, this was also brought up to the state auditor's office, is that Alan Close, and here we go from January 27th of 2021, before any of the auditor was contacted, because the auditor was contacted in August of 2021, before even the meeting where it was brought up today for this no bid contract, Alan Close was emailing people about a meeting that he had in Avon Lake, and he accidentally sent it to Hinckley Fire, which then sent it to Mark's Dick Miller. And this was found and said, first, thank you for the awesome number late last night. Second, the Avon Lake Fire Chief called a bit ago and informed me that no decision has been made. The mayors would only commit to deciding on February 10th when they meet by themselves. North Ridgeville was a heavy proponent of Marks, and all the fire chiefs were opposed to that idea. The chiefs are now going to have the various unions, so they're going to use the unions to send a letter of support for the CCI system to their respective mayors, who tend to bow down to union wishes. So this is a private company saying that I have colluded with the fire chiefs to use their union to pressure the mayors of the 5 cities who tend to bow down to union wishes. If the chiefs and the unions are in favor of a particular direction, it's likely too hard for the mayors to split. This did not go as we wish this morning, but we'll see how it ends. And in February, who was meeting with CCI? Michelle Hung and Harry Williamson, who's meeting with Mission Critical Partners, Harry and Michelle. And this private company said, I'm going to use the fire chiefs to use the unions to push my system on the unions. But then in 2021, when he was asked, did you use the unions to push this contract, he denies it. I wonder why. Oh no, never. Why would we do that, right? Let's hear what he said.
Here in North.
The first meeting in July.
Okay. So, all right, just so I'm clear.
This is with the first investigator as well, Todd Clark.
When this whole thing is starting to brew here, and North Ridgeville's got this obviously this internal issue between their fire and council, you never made any overtures to anybody to say, hey, you need to rally the fire chiefs and the unions to tell the powers that be, whether the county or an individual city, that hey, we don't want this Mark system. We want to be on the Harris system. You had never anything to do with that.
I talked to Jeremy Betza, the fire chief at Avon Lake.
Okay.
And I said, can you reach out to Commissioner Lundy? Jeremy Betza has been a proponent of the project from the get-go.
Okay.
In an effect, in one way or another, it was his baby. And
he's the one that kind of
started the process.
sowed the seeds for this.
Right.
Okay.
So he reached out to Commissioner Lundy and asked them, hey, can you help make sure this happens?
For the 5.
Well, not for the 5 cities. That's more
everything.
of a countywide
All
request
right,
that he
fair
made.
enough. Okay.
Any others? I've had numerous conversations with John Reese, the fire chief from North Ridgeville.
Okay.
He calls me, or I'll call him, and we talk about what's going on. He has a relationship with Michelle Hung.
Okay.
A long-term friendship, I believe, from when she was the councilwoman in North Ridgeville.
Okay.
So he has a natural friendship with her.
Okay.
So if he's reached out to her and talked to her, that's on him.
Yeah, I understand it. I'm not asking you about what other people are doing. I'm just specifically what you were doing or not doing. Okay, so
Way to obfuscate the question, Alan. Let's see what else he says. But it says what we just read. The unions, and that's from Alan Close, are going to what? Push. And that's what Dave Moore said too. They're going to use the unions because the mayors bow down to union wishes. And that's political. That's because of voting people. And this is in 2021. This is the first investigator.
So subsequent to that, did you have any conversations with Mr. Williamson or Commissioner Hung or anyone for that matter about whether or not your company was going to have to get into a bid process over this project?
Not that I recall.
Was there any conversation between you and Mr. Williamson relative to maybe having these 5 cities that you were already doing this for have some conversation with the board relative to pushing the contract?
I don't know what you mean.
Well, I mean, I guess my question is, did you ever talk to anybody about or communicate with anybody about getting the unions and the cities that already had your system to make a push to the commissioners to expand it through your company?
Are you speaking specifically of North Ridgeville?
I'm just asking in general.
North Ridgeville Fire Union was very, very adamant against their fire department being put on the MARC system. And there was a meeting, I think it's in July. There was a meeting there were a couple of meetings in North Ridgeville, Tuesdays. Yep. In July, there were a couple of meetings, and I believe the one on July 6th, the fire union was present in 5 or 6 firemen that were there. And they were very adamant about not being put on the MARC system. They wanted to be part of the 5-city project, even though the city was considered at all times as part of the 5 cities. And those
you got me. You lost me again. So you did this project for the 5 Avon Lake.
Right.
Who else?
Sheffield Village and Sheffield Lake.
And Sheffield.
So right where I showed you, I'm trying to find what I uploaded. ARPA money. Yes. Now he's asking, did you use, the fire people to advocate, the Lorain County commissioners? And he said, no, that's a lie. We've all watched the meetings. We've all seen all the firemen commenting on every little thing and fighting against, the big bad Dave Moore and Jeff Riddell against, the rescission of the contract. So when the contract was actually being talked about before this person, they were talking about, so here's her February 24, 2021 meeting with Mission Critical Partners, then later in 2022, while Todd Clark was investigating this, while the auditors was investigating it, here we go. More. There was a contract that Dave lost his shit. It was March of 2022, and Mission Critical Partners. Come on. Why are you taking so long to do this? It's gonna make me mad. Mission Critical Partners contract listed, and Mission Critical Partners was to be a third party. They weren't supposed to recommend like a company itself. It was like what's better, like a MARC situation or like a private vendor situation. They're supposed to give their unbiased, whatever opinion, but they sent over a contract that listed Cleveland Communications specifically 27 times, and they're supposed to be an independent contractor. And this apparently doesn't want to load for me because it hates me right now. Here are the texts between that Alan Close provided between him and Michelle. And clearly he was working with Michelle, who was, and I have plenty of documents to show it, working towards getting Lundy on board. So he said, you did the right thing, reach out to Commissioner Moore. And then he wanted this tower lease. Now this tower lease is for Burns Road Tower. I've said throughout my entire investigation, he needed this lease or his system wasn't going to work just because of the location of the tower, how high it is. He needed this for his system to work. Original morning, I have it. Time flies. This was between 8/3/2021 and 7/3/2021. It's unknown the exact date. If I haven't expressed any, thank you for all of your support and all this madness. You're welcome. Ms. Michelle Hung. Thank you, Commissioner Lundy. He became a surprise ally. Remember, we don't switch to parties, but all of a sudden he's an ally. I'm drinking from a political fire hose in Lorain County. Mayor Hunter called him right after we talked to you yesterday. My friends in the fire service have reached out to blame. Like, we don't know what that says. I'll call you back. That was August 3rd. Harry Williamson gives her number. Harry originally used the county phone to communicate. This was his personal phone number. This was after he was terminated. So she gave him his actual phone number so they can still collaborate. Thank you. And then he said, coming in the building. So August 30th, apparently Alan Close was meeting with Rob Weber, the interim administration. So he said, oh, did you ever, try to push the commissioners? Yeah, he did. Tuesday, September 7th, Denham Ruins reporter contacted the Chronicle to put out a hit piece. No story from Dylan. He said he had to cover breaking news from Avon Lake. Hopefully the story is in the paper tomorrow. Heard about Avon Lake incident. North Ridgeville Council. This is about the North Ridgeville Council going with Marks and the pressure they were putting on the council to sign on with CCI because, like you said before, like he was, they were a fan of Marks. Then he asked for October, the contract for the Burns Road Tower. She needed it back so they can, take a look at it. He was going to be in Wellington this morning, meeting with the fire department. That is Weatherby who pushed for this contract. You know what I mean? So he's meeting with the fire chiefs to push Lorain County for his contract. And they were coming in at this time, giving their little speeches and you're going to kill firemen and we need this and, all the fear porn they could actually muster up. Contract with Teresa, scheduled, blah, blah. So anyways, these were their communications. So clearly Michelle Hung had a preference. Then here's the MCP. So they wanted to pay in after Dave Moore, brought this is wrong, in 2021, in December of 2021, he gave a huge speech. They then hired Mission Critical Partners again for consulting services to the fire station locution system. Vastu Communications had already done this. They had already sent the proposal out to the county, and the county ended up sending that to Cleveland Communications, who then upbid Vastu. It was crazy. It was nuts, but they list Michigan appreciates the opportunity to provide a proposal to Lorain County for professional consultant services integration for the integration with Cleveland Communications L3 system. This is February 10th, people. There was no integration with Cleveland Communications L3 system for the county. None. They asked this company for a third party look, to look between Cleveland Communications, an honest look, and Marks and see what was better for the county, because their original, I will say this, Mission Critical Partners' original recommendation in 2018 was Marks. It was not L3 system. And the L3 system is a taxpayer-owned system. But throughout this whole thing, this is my handwriting, sorry, I just put my notes on here, but throughout this whole 9 pages, CCI is mentioned 27 times. And Dave Moore lost his shit. You should watch the meeting. It's quite interesting. But anyways, this is just raising me, so we're gonna exit out of there. So 27 times. So in the first investigator made it to Dave Moore in June 2022, and the first investigator asked Dave Moore, what is this all about? Okay, he says, what is this all about? And this is what Dave had to say.
Interview with Commissioner Dave Moore from Lorain County, Investigator Monley, and Forensic Audit Manager George D. Mavrosa is here as well. And so just so I can make this easy, Commissioner, we had a conversation back in August of 2021 about these issues that we're going to talk about today, right?
Correct.
Okay. And so some of the issues are related to Commissioner Michelle Hung and some extramarital affairs she was having with the former 911 director, Harry Williamson. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we talked about that. I don't want to really get into all that. I want to kind of start from when you took office.
Correct.
You took office in January of 2021. Is
Yep.
that right?
Correct.
And after you took office there became some issues with Commissioner Hung relative to a 911 bill system for the county, radio system, right?
I'm sorry, Clark, this is Molly. We
And
both worked together at the beginning.
there also was some issues regarding employee hiring that Ms. Hung was involved in. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so I guess what I want to do is let's start in January or whenever this issues with the radio system came up. Can you just start me there and we'll just kind of go through that whole process and I'll ask you some specific questions.
Okay. Well, the issues in regards to the radio system really didn't kick in till June, when I attended a June 14th or 15th meeting with Michelle Hung. I was invited to listen to a presentation with Mission Critical, CCI's president and one of his employees. Michelle Hung and Harry Williamson was there. Chris Kish was there because Tom Williams could not make it. Amy Marcel was there, who was my secretary and administrative assistant. I bring her to take notes when I need them. And they had an itinerary to follow, and they started talking and nobody was making sense. Finally, they said, well, why don't we just call Mission Critical on the phone and have them explain what's going on? Because I still couldn't, I was never acknowledged when I sat down. I was the last one in the meeting. No one acknowledged me, no introductions. And the Mission Critical guy got on, I think his name was Steve Haberman or something, and he proceeded to start talking about a $6.5 million contract, which would be no bid for CCI, in which to bring in a new radio system to the 911. And I advised them that there's no way I'm going to do a $6.5 million no bid. They proceeded to tell me, and they started to quote a statute, like a services statute or something in Ohio, which I said, I'm well aware of that statute. I said, but there's no way I'm going to do a $6.5 million no bid contract. And I got up and I walked out. After I left, my secretary informed me that he looked at the Commissioner Hung CCI and said, looks like you need to make an alliance with Commissioner Lundy.
Which we now know that he said, and let's continue. Give me 2 seconds.
He said, looks like you need to make an alliance with Commissioner Lundy. Trying to think what else happened and give her credit. She said, no, that's not going to happen. That was on June 14th, June 15th.
2021.
Of 2021. And that's kind of was my first indication. I realized that there's something going on at 911. And within probably the next 30 days, which is now trying to figure out which day, what happened. But I would say by July 15th, the relationship with Commissioner Hung and myself pretty much was deteriorated. In that time, I made the decision to reinvestigate my votes on 911 and say, okay, what did happen? This, as I was working on economic development programs and other things, I mean, that's kind of where I started to find some other irregularities, I guess is a word, that I didn't feel was appropriate, and proceeded to start exposing them. And I believe we met sometime in August, in which I shared some of that information with you.
Right. So let me go back through that. So you gave me a series of packets.
Correct.
And these packets are things that you discovered when what you're talking about here.
Correct.
You decided to go back and review your votes on some of these things. So I'd just like to go down them one at a time here.
When we go on the I think it was April 28th, there was a bid or there was an approval of 102,000.
Yeah.
Would you like me to talk about that or no?
I'll get to that one in
Okay,
a second.
sorry.
But there's one in here from January 27th, 2021. And this one has some emails in there from Jeff Armbruster from North Ridgeville. It was a public records request made by Mr. Miller from DAS.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to understand, or I think I got it, but I want you to clarify a few things for me. When this whole radio system came up for the county, it's your understanding, it's my understanding from reading the documents that Cleveland Communications had entered into a contract in order to do what they call the 5 Cities project. And that was a radio system for Avon Lake, Sheffield. I'm thinking North Ridgeville was supposed to be involved in it, and another city to have their own radio system. That is not something that was done by the county. That was
Correct.
something they did separate. Is that right?
Correct.
And then the idea of the entire county system came about because Cleveland Communications is talking with the former 911 director Williamson about saying, hey, we're doing this here. We'd like to expand it to the entire county. And that's what kind of spawned this whole thing. Is that right? Or
I would say it's the other way around. I think what happened was they wanted to go county-wide, and it wasn't working. I was told that in 2018 and 2019, they did a countywide study in regards to the to having a countywide radio system. The problem was it was 15 to 20 million. They put it on the shelf. A lot of people felt that they wanted to continue that project, but couldn't get past the commissioners. So they started out
prior to your administration.
Correct. And so then what happened was they decided to use the 5 cities, start there, and then put pressure on and use the pressure from that level to come on up and force the county into a countywide system. My understanding, and again, this is my understanding, that there was like $1 million grant that they received. And as of today, they're still not using it because it's one of those things where, which comes first, chicken or the egg. And so my understanding was that they were using a lot of politics in order to get the 5 cities on. And then that from that point, then they were going to use those 5 cities to get the county and force us into a one system, like let's say a monopoly system, whatever you want to use words, and that's kind of what I was told as I started reading these documents. So if you go back, that's why it's easier for me when I see them. I can kind of talk. Like the one issue you saw, there was a meeting in end of January in which that CCI said they weren't happy, but we'll use the unions and to put pressure on.
Like you said, in 2018, and he's correct, 2018, Cordes, they did Mission Critical Partners, who they had hired after this, did a feasibility study on a new telecommunications system in the county, and it was going to be $20 million. So they said no. They said absolutely not. So then they went back down to the 5 cities, and the 5 cities were going to buy, their radios from CCI, and then this letter came out after that was started that said they were going to push. They're going to use the chiefs. We're going to use the unions to push their mayors to do what the chiefs wanted them to do, which is, pushing and steering a contract. That's contract steering. And Michelle and then helped them later rig the bid. Moore wasn't on board, and when Moore wasn't on board, they had issues. Now, Dave Miller also said talked about the email. I'm going to play that here, and notice that Michelle and Harry Williamson, Commissioner Michelle and 911 director, her boyfriend Paramore, 911 director Harry Williamson, were using the unions, and that when he attended a meeting, they were sitting with Alan Close, so they're clearly pushing CCI
system for ABC.
No, the only thing I know is that, and I'm sure you guys are aware of that email that went out mistakenly that asked the fire chiefs to apply pressure to the mayors, and that was part of what Harris, Cleveland Communications, had sent out.
Right, I'm aware of the email. Do you know, or have you heard anything to understand why would the fire chiefs even be willing to put that kind of pressure on to get this Harris radio system? Do you understand what I'm getting at?
I do. And it's nothing proof. This is my opinion.
That's okay.
Only, but all 5 of those fire departments are part of the AFL-CIO, and you have to remember who Commissioner Hung was with.
You're talking about Mr. Williamson, Harry Williamson,
who was the ex-president of the
AFL-CIO.
He said it.
So you don't get that system. So, but there's still talks about the countywide radio system. At some point, did you get back involved in the discussions about the countywide radio system?
We never left that discussion. The North Ridgeville Public Safety Director, he's an ex-state senator, Jeff Armbruster. Mr. Armbruster's been involved and he's wanted a statewide or a countywide system for years. He was not a supporter of Marks when he was in the state senate. I was there, and I tell you that he was not a supporter. He thought it was a large overspend and a boondoggle. But now that he sees it, he's a huge supporter of Marks, and he thinks it's the best thing for Lorain County.
So it's fair to say he's pushing for the Marks system for the entire county. And so at some point, the new county elected administration gets involved, or they've been involved, but they resurrect this thing.
Yes, sir.
And
so he's saying the North Ridgeville Safety Service Director, which then ended up being the county administrator, current county administrator, Jeff Armbruster, who was not for the Mark system when he was a legislator, is now for the Mark system. And there was a thing going on in North Ridgeville because CCI was trying to push their way in. Now, when Dick Miller went to the CCI meeting, and like he said, why do you think these firemen are, pushing this hard? AFL-CIO. Harry Williamson, the paramour to Commissioner Michelle Hung, was president of the AFL-CIO, and it's a union push, and they want to use the unions to push the mayors and steer and rig a bid in favor of one company, give them a no bid contract. I mean, Jimmy DeMora went to prison over a pizza cooker, and they want to give a multi-million-dollar radio contract to CCI, and then you have Dana Golner. When he hands, he get paid as the AFL-CIO members that are going to get paid. Now, this is what happened when Dick Miller from Marks met Harry and Michelle for the first time.
And we met with them and gave them a presentation about Marks.
Okay.
And that was at the 911 center. And then after that, Williamson asked for maps, coverage maps.
Okay.
Which we can generate. And what we did was we generated them off of, for example, we can generate maps off of our current infrastructure, and we can also generate maps off of proposed infrastructure. So if they wanted better in-building coverage, we could put a tower here and see how it covered things, or we can move it over a street or move it up here and that mile. So he wanted maps of that, which I have no idea why he wanted those maps, but he asked for those maps and we gave him the map. And then he asked for what the address was of our tower. We gave him the address of our tower and those kind of things. And then we never heard no more out of Williamson. And of course, I think he got fired. And then it was back to Commissioner Hung. And since then, the only thing we've heard is that we went to a meeting in North Ridgeville. Director Small was there and I was there. The only thing I know that happened at that meeting, there was a lot of people there it was a regular council meeting, and they were going to pass a resolution on what they were going to do with the radio system. And that was put on hold. But the only thing I know at that meeting was, myself and Director Small sat in the back of the room, and in the back row of the chairs that were set up, it was Cleveland Communications, Commissioner Hung, and Mr. Williamson. They sat in the back of the row together. And then he waited until everybody else gave their presentation, which we gave a presentation. And then when we were done with our presentation, then he went up and gave his presentation, and that was the end of that.
Okay. Can anybody get these mapping things that you're?
So, like Mark said, we generated maps for Harry Williamson, and then, all of a sudden, they wanted really nothing to do with us. I think they gave those maps, to be honest with you, to CCI to see where they would need to put receivers for their equipment for this program. Hold on one second. So then the investigation continued. They investigated a bunch of other people, and like I said, I'm skipping far ahead because that's not, you know what I mean? We're just gonna skip far ahead. So then, since we're speaking about North Ridgeville, we Monley and Clark hold on, I just want to make sure I'm not messing this up. You know what Dave said? I should have put these in order, to be honest with you. Okay, so then we are going to go to North Ridgeville. So what happened in North Ridgeville? And this was after, he had talked to Miller, he had talked to SU, he had talked to Commissioner Moore, he talked to John Gall, he had talked to Jen Sinatra, and he talked to Alan Close, and all of these, entities. And they came to the conclusion that, and this is where Monley and Clark stated that Hung, was pushing these contracts, not Dave Moore. And we're going to listen to a couple of clips, okay? And this is still, just so I don't confuse people, this is in 2021. This is before Kapinski. This is in 2022, before Kapinski. This is in 2022, right before they pass, on the last day they're in power, multi-million-dollar radio contract that then was rescinded 6 weeks later, 6 weeks later, I think, or 4 weeks later, whatever, 2-3 weeks later, whatever.
Ever screw up the election for any of the county administrators that were running, the Democrats that were running,
By dropping a multi-million-dollar radio system in the fire.
right?
Okay.
Completely understandable.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So he went ahead and they held off on it. Basically, I always say they threw it in the garbage can because I don't think they ever intended to do it after that, but they held off on it. So here we are, the 5 fire chiefs. We all go to lunch and look at each other, and we're like, our radios are getting worse by the day. And we're telling each other hoarse, and we're like, we got to do something. So we decided to pick the mission critical study out of the garbage can, go over it, and figure out if there was any way to build the system just for us, a smaller version of it.
Okay.
A smaller version that could be built onto into the future.
Now he's talking about the commissioners before Michelle Hung and them. They threw it in the garbage can. They said it's gonna be $20 million. We're not doing it. Then Michelle and Dave get in office. Now they're not in office yet when Reese is talking. I want to confuse you.
We all went to our mayors, including me, asked for permission to do this. The mayors all agreed to it at the time, said go ahead and do it. And then, meanwhile, there was an election, and the Democrats lost their seat in the county commissioners' positions, and Michelle Hung and
Dave Moore
won it.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I'm not going to try to flim flam anyone.
Okay.
It was the only time in my lifetime that I walked around and handed out literature for a campaign for a candidate, and it was
Michelle
Hung and Moore, because Michelle Hung was here. She was a council person in North Ridgeville at the time.
Okay.
She was the only council person that ever helped me came to me and said, what do you need? And actually followed through and helped me get anything for public safety.
Okay.
I did not know Dave Moore at the time. That was somebody she knew or brought in or whatever.
Okay.
The reason I did that was because I didn't think that radio system would ever, Marks, Harris, any of them. I didn't think the county would ever build any of those radio systems. And
For what reason? Cost? Politics, cost, combination?
The Torres, the county administrator,
yeah,
he said right in front of he called the fire chiefs a bunch of whining crybabies to my face.
Mm-hmm.
He did not like us.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do anything for him politically, so he had no use for us.
Okay.
That was the county administrator under the Democrats before Michelle Hung and Dave Moore got into office. That's who he's talking about. They threw out the mission critical study and said, we're not doing this. It's going to cost $20 million. Not a thing.
That's my opinion.
I got you.
And that was the opinion of all of us at the time. And we just felt that he wasn't going to do anything to help us.
Okay.
She had said that if she got in office, she would make it her mission to help us do that and to fix Lorain County 911, which was a disaster.
All right, listen to what he just said. Who promised them to help them? Who? Was it Moore? No. Was it Lundy? No. Who, before they got into office, promised the firefighters she was gonna help them? Who got involved with CCI? Michelle Hung. Who was with the AFL-CIO president? Michelle Hung. Who got the AFL-CIO endorsement? Michelle Hung. Who decided to get into this whole radio thing? Michelle Hung.
County Administrator.
Yeah.
He said right in front of he called the fire chiefs a bunch of whining crybabies to me, to my face.
Mm-hmm.
He did not like us.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't do anything for him politically, so he had no use for us.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
I got you.
And that was the opinion of all of us at the time, and we just felt that he wasn't going to do anything to help us.
Okay.
She had said that if she got in office, she would make it her mission to help us do that and to fix Lorain County 911, which was a disaster.
Okay.
So we didn't back her as an organization because we really don't do that. But personally, I went out, handed out some literature. I know there were a couple fire chiefs that probably donated for a campaign, you know, a little $100, whatever. But
right.
we were rooting for her. There's no question.
Okay.
We didn't know her very well, but obviously, but we were rooting for her.
Okay.
So anyway, they got elected. And in the meantime, we were already working with our mayors on this radio system. And we went to Harris because they were the number one recommendation from the Mission Critical. We went to Harris and we said, look, we want to build this out. What will it take to get for our 3 cities? So they did all the mapping data and everything, and they came up with we needed to build 3 towers. And we had 3 tower sites. It was the water tower in Avon, the new water tower on Mills Road.
Yep.
It was the
My bad. Sorry. I was going to keep going. Next clip. This is split in 3 just because it was long to download. Give me 2 seconds. It's going to pull up. Maybe it won't.
okay.
There at some point during the process, the 2 commissioners, there's 2 commissioners there that are butting heads over it. Well, I guess it's 2 against 1 now, but initially it was 2 commissioners, the 2 Republican commissioners, Hung and Moore, that got into a disagreement over this project. You're aware of that, right?
Yeah, they hate each other.
Yeah, but they were aligned during the campaign.
Right.
Okay. So my understanding is that the issue is over whether this countywide radio system needs to be bid out or not. My understanding is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I'm hearing is that the one commissioner, when this proposal came for this countywide radio system, he wasn't necessarily against it, but when they tried to drive it through no bid at $6.5 million, my understanding was that he tried to pump the brakes on it and say, hey, wait a minute, I'm not agreeing to a no bid contract for $6.5 million. He's claiming he doesn't have any particular skin in the game as far as what radio system it is. He's arguing that he doesn't want to pay $6.5 million to one company without a bid process. Is that your understanding of it?
Now, under Ohio law, it was, I think at this time, I think it was $50K. It went up to $100K, but the $50K project, you have to put a bid out, anything over $50K, and they wanted to do a $6.4 million no bid contract. And like what Todd Clark is saying right now, from my understanding, he was upset at the process. He didn't care about the company. He said, we're not doing a no bid contract, which Reese will tell him, oh no, you're wrong. But then you'll see what Reese does.
Is there something else going on there?
No, there's more going on there.
Okay. So
I can't tell you exactly what it is because I don't know. I know what I suspect, but he's tight. Dave Moore is tight with my safety director.
So Reese is saying, like they said previous interviews, that Armbruster was for the mark system after he was legislator, didn't like it. Now he's for the mark system. That somehow now, because Armbruster likes it, even though Davis said the whole time, I don't like the process here. I don't like the no bid process. They're including somehow, and that's a story that Michelle Hung had put out.
Processing though, that like no one's ever said that I'm aware of at this point anyway, that no one has ever came out and said, hey, they don't believe the Harris system is the best system for this particular project or city or whatever. Quite the contrary, except for one person. everyone else that I've talked to about this, and I'm talking safety people and politicians and regular Joes, they've all said that they thought that no one has ever picked a side except for one person. And so
And the one person that picked a side is Michelle Hung. She wanted CCI. She pushed CCI. She steered the bid towards CCI. She rigged the bid for CCI by saying phase 2 instead of phase 1. We've gone over that in my investigation. She talked to the prosecutor how you rigged the bid. She pushed for this company, and she had promised for the election. She had promised to her paramour. She had promised other people that she was going to get CCI. And that's what Todd Clark is saying in 2022. Before Greg Kapinski came along in 2022, he's saying that this is one person.
I think that said, everyone else that I've talked to about this, and I'm talking safety people and politicians and regular Joes, they've all said that they thought that no one has ever picked a side except for one person. And so I think that what I say that to say what you're telling me is interesting, because I don't think I've heard that from anybody else before. And I'm trying to figure out, like you said, what is the reasoning for. I don't think, I mean, I can share with you. I don't think, no one has told me, or I haven't heard that Moore is pushing for the Mark system over Harris. You're the first person that's told me that. Now, maybe I just haven't talked to the right people yet. I mean, but
talk to the 911 director. He'll tell you that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
You talk to Mike Weatherby. He's the president of the Fire Chiefs Association. I'm pretty positive he'll tell you that. I mean, we all know it.
Yeah. I know a lot of things too, but what can I prove? I guess is what I'm saying.
And you're exactly right. And you're exactly right. Can I prove that?
No, because it's untrue. It's just a rumor. It's a rumor was between all of you. But yeah, you want to believe it. It's a problem with fucking Lorain County.
And the Fire Chiefs Association, I'm pretty for sure.
Okay.
Fire Chiefs Association is the association that then in 2023, when a contract was rescinded, asked the sheriffs to investigate the commissioners because they did not pass a contract that they wanted. And what did the sheriffs do? They weaponized their office and they started doing it, even though the auditor state was already investigating this. But they deaded it, and they knew they deaded it. And like Kapinski said, I was told by my bosses, we're not gonna, bring this back up, even though Dave Moore has new allegations and gave me evidence for those allegations. We're just not gonna bring it back up.
You talk to Mike Weatherby. He's the president of the Fire Chiefs Association. I'm pretty positive he'll tell you that. I mean, we all know it.
Yeah. I know a lot of things too, but what can I prove? I guess is what I'm saying.
And you're exactly right. And you're exactly right. Can I prove that? No, but it's not a secret.
Yeah. And you're basing that just on actions, or
I'm basing it on actions, what he says at meetings, all that. Yeah.
Well, I've seen most of his meetings too, and I think with the ones that I've watched, they've been more about the process than they have been about the product. Maybe I'm just not seeing it the way you're seeing it, but I've never heard him say that the county should be using Marks over Harris.
No, I don't think he's ever said that. It came right out and said that in a meeting.
So I guess what makes you think, based on what he's saying, that he's.
So even the auditor's office is saying he's always bitched about the process. He was not bitching about, I want to use Marks over Harris. I want to use Vasu over Harris. Cause they always go to Marks, but there was other companies in competition here. It was Vasu, it was Marks, and it was Cleveland Communications. So they're trying to push this whole, he was pro Marks, but even the auditor said, well, no, he was upset about the process, how this process is going, how the bid rigging is going, how they're already doing no bids and giving them $102,000 worth of work. How, it's already how they're favoring this one company, how Michelle and Lundy are favoring this one company on behalf of her paramour, Harry Williamson, who had already started this project before they even got in office. How do you meet CCI? Down here in Curie with Art Mead before he was in office in December. He already had planned this.
In favor of Mark's, other than saying that, you know, how, I mean, look, I know he said some things in meetings about he believes that there's that Hung and the Harris people are in cahoots, and the old 911 director was in on it, and, you know, before he got canned. And I know all those things that he's rumbled up, but is that what you're saying is the reasoning for you believing that he's pushing Marks, or is there something else that I'm missing? And I'm not asking you to prove anything. I'm just asking you, you know, throw some stuff out to make me think. That's all.
No. There was a, and you'd have to talk to Alan Close about this.
Okay.
There was a meeting that he was involved in that he got funny with Alan Close at that meeting, was fighting with him, then wouldn't even talk to him.
I'm aware of
a big contract for six, whatever. And then we're going to go back to this John Reese interview real quick. It was 8/26, 2022. And I want to play the last bit of it because I hadn't heard this recording in a while. And I caught this on the back end and I thought it was.
You know, we could take some steps to keep it quiet. You have some
after this conversation with Todd Clark,
well, I mean, I get it.
He starts kind of questioning himself on what he thinks, and he kind of admits like he's afraid of people finding out of this conversation. You just have the state auditor's office because he doesn't want people to like know that he talked to him. And I want you guys to listen to this.
Like it's still dead. As far as I know, it never even made it to the floor.
Okay.
Last I had heard, it hadn't even made it to the floor.
Gotcha. Okay.
So what do you do with all this information that I just gave you? Does this all become public record? And
yeah, I mean, I have to write a report, and you know, it's not public record until the case is closed. I'm assuming you're asking me that because you might have some concerns. I mean, is that why you're asking me? You just don't want your name out there at this point?
I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you were me, what would you know?
Well, I mean, I get it. I understand that, but I mean, you know, we've both been in this game for a long time. You know how that works. What I'll do is I will call my boss Monday, and I'll tell it because I told him that you had called, and I was going to talk to you. I thought it was going to be next week, honestly, but I'll let him know that I talked to you, and I'll let him know that you have some concerns about that. But you know, so we could take some steps to keep it quiet. That, you know, if there's a public, I'm not in the public records release portion of the office there, so I don't want you to think I'm telling you gospel, but there's a process in place for like redactions and stuff that gets released and doesn't get released. And I can go through that process with them and see what they tell me, and I can let you know flat out, hey, this is what it's going to be. If you want me to, I understand your concerns, Chief. Don't think I don't. And I get it. They're well placed at this point based on what you're telling me.
Well, I still don't feel like I'm doing anything wrong because here's the thing. When the state auditor comes to me and they say, "Hey, you said you bought a pickup truck here. Where is it? Can I see it?"
Right.
Of course, I take them right to it and show it to them. When the state auditor's investigator calls me and says, "Hey, I want to ask you about this radio system," I'm going to tell you, you know, what I know about the radio system.
I mean, you could, well, you know, look, I can't tell you what to do or not to do or what to say or not to say. I'm thinking maybe, you know, if this guy's giving you a hard time about putting letters out or anything like that, you can tell him that, you know, if you feel free to tell him that I called you and talked to you, if that's what you want to, you feel that that's what you need to do in order to protect yourself. I'm all for whatever you need to do. You know, I'm not trying to throw you out there if you don't want to be out there. I mean, but you know, I do have, you know how it goes. It's a report. I got to write a report. It's going to be part of the file. And if somebody makes a public records request and wants to look at what we did, they're going to release what they can within the rules. You know, there's certain things that
we don't have to release by law, but we have to justify everything that we don't have to justify anything we give away. We just have to justify anything we keep. So, I wouldn't make those decisions, I guess is what I'm telling you. Somebody else would have to make that decision. But
I'm guessing if nothing comes out of this, then nobody's going to care anyway.
Nobody's going to, yeah. If it gets closed and nothing happens, that's not true though. Cause I had somebody something else we closed on some other case. Somebody asked for a copy of the thing. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's true, but you're right. No, most of the time, if nothing comes of it, nobody cares, but I would never say never.
Do you think anything's going to come of it?
I don't listen. There's issues here. I just don't know whether they're issues that's going to warrant something to be done. Like I told you from the beginning, I don't know. I got a complaint. They say there's something funny going on with this whole bid process and, other things here. It's multifaceted. So it's not just what I'm talking to you about. There's other things that have been brought up too, that we have to look at. I don't know. I never put I've been doing this 30 years. I never put the cart before the horse. There's some things I think, yeah, this is bad. This is bad. And nothing happens from it. And there's some things that I think, well, this is nothing. And the next thing you know, it's all over the 6 o'clock news. I'm like, I don't even know how. So I've learned a long time ago not to make, I don't have a horse in the game. So what I would do, and the guy that's working on it with me, we investigate it. I buy the groceries, they cook the meal. So I'm going to give them all the information, and what they decide they want to do with it is up to them. Whether it's, if they think there's some financial auditing issues that got to be addressed, or they think there's some criminal activity that has to be addressed. I don't make those. Sure. I don't make those decisions. Somebody else makes them. I just give them the information, as much of it as I can, and say, hey, this is here's the best snapshot of I can give you what's going on. What do you want me to do with it? And they'll tell me. So.
I just want the process to be. I want the process to be legal either way. So if Harris Radio screwed up or did something, then go put the handcuffs on them, do whatever you got to do.
Right.
Same on the other hand.
Right.
I don't care either way. I just want it to be right and fair, because I just don't think it's been. I don't know if I don't know it for a fact, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I got it.
And in the end, though, my bosses aren't going to see it that way. They're going to look at it politically, like I was trying to cut their throats, which I wasn't.
Well, I mean, would they do that regardless of the outcome? I mean, if your answer, I don't know. I'm not, I don't have any skin in the game there either. But if that's the way you feel, then the chips are going to fall wherever they fall, regardless. So they're either going to believe it or not believe it, based on whatever they decide they want to believe or not believe, whether it's right, wrong, or otherwise, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be flip about it, but I'm just saying they're going to do whatever they want to do regardless, if they find out that you had a conversation with me. And quite frankly, at some point I'm going to have a conversation with them. I'm going to keep it real with you. I'm going to call them. I'm going to talk to them about it, because I need to get all the information. And I don't, if you're doing a proper investigation, you're going to ask all the questions, and you're going to ask all the people. I'm not going to leave anybody out just because, like I said, I got no skin in the game one way or another. I respect your position here. You're a fire chief. You've been a longtime fireman. You're responsible for guys, and you don't want them getting hurt or killed because they can't talk to anybody. So you're trying to do the best you can for your department, your city, and your people. I got nothing but respect for that. And, there's a process that's in place for you to follow in order to make sure that happens. And there's a process in place for the county to follow. There's a process in place for everybody that's doing this to follow. And as long as that process was followed, then I don't think anybody's got anything to worry about. But if somebody did something that they shouldn't have done, whether that's a procedural or a criminal thing, well, then they're going to have to answer for that. There's nothing I can do about that. It's whatever it is whatever it's going to be. So, and if they have a problem with the fact that you're trying to do the right thing by your guys and your department, well, I think that's more their problem than it is yours, quite frankly.
Well, that's what I think too. But so like I said, I'm not trying to ask you for any favors. I wouldn't do that. But just keep in mind, I'm like you. I'm just a family guy.
Listen.
If you got to throw my name in, throw it in. If you don't,
well, I'm just going to ask you flat out, Chief. If I can keep your name out of it, you want me to keep your name out of it? Now we've talked here for about an hour and a half, so I gotta document that somehow. But if I can go to my boss and say, hey, look, he talked to me, but he was reluctant because he's worried about retaliation and whatnot. Can we do something to kind of protect him in this whole process? And he's going to tell me yay or nay. And if he tells me yay, then I know what that process is, and I'll be contacting you. I'm going to contact you either way. Come Monday afternoon sometime after I get a chance to talk to him, I'll let you know. And if we can take steps to protect your the fact that you spoke to us, I have no problem with that at all. I don't. I mean, it's not the first time I've done it, so it's not a problem.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yep.
And I have, I was thinking, he was a legislative aide to that House rep. I have something at home where I have.
Don't worry about it. Let me just how about this? Just hang on to everything, and when I get back to you next week, Monday or so, then you can let me know what you got, and I'll say, yeah, I'd like to have that, or I have that already. And, I don't want you doing duplicate work if it's something I already got my hands on.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But that I know I don't have. So that would be helpful, especially given what you've told me.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right. Hey, Chief, I appreciate it. I really do. I know I feel for you for what kind of position you're in right now. And I appreciate you taking.
Now, what's really funny is the retaliation that John Reese was worried about was not the retaliation from his bosses. It wasn't retaliation from his constituents, his firemen. It was retaliation from his other fire chiefs that were pushing this contract, that they were all doing all the emails and the emails back and forth. And I go over those in all my episodes. If you guys want like a full rundown of this is like the quickest synopsis I can give. That happens. Well, Todd Clark and Kevin Monley, that's where their investigation pretty much fucking stops. Okay. I don't know if he talked to his boss. I don't know if when he talked to his boss and he's like, these guys are worried about this and this. The only person pushing this corrupt contract is Michelle Hung. I don't know if favors were caught. I don't know what happened. Okay. I don't know what the hell happened, but it was dropped. Okay. And nothing really came of it. Nothing came up with it. It was just dead. And then Michelle passed the contract. The new commissioners came in, rescinded it. And then Dave Moore, after they received, a subpoena from the sheriff's office about they're investigating him on behalf of the fire chiefs. And I've gone over all those in other episodes. Like I said, go back, Mean Street News, any podcast platform, you'll see it. They hired an attorney and they sent this packet to the auditor state. So when Kapinski is talking about the 90 pages that they received from Dave Moore, this is what they received. And just like they said, they're not going to investigate any further. They're not investigating any more. Their big bosses told the sheriff, and, please, gang, we're not going to do any of this. He said, dear Ms. Spalding, we have been retained by a majority of the Lorain County commissioners, and that means not Michelle Hung, but Jeff and Dave request an investigation of circumstances relating to potential contract between Lorain County and CCI for L3 Harris Public Safety Radio System that cost taxpayers more than $7.7 million and the potential involvement of interested public officials. The commissioners believe an investigation by an independent governmental authority free of any conflict of interest is essential to ensure the integrity of Lorain County public bidding process. The urgency of this is driven by the recent extraordinary and ultra-vires effort of the Lorain County Sheriff's Office, the sheriff, to weaponize its own investigative authority to convene a grand jury investigation, both to support CCI's bid and to retaliate against the commissioners for one, their January 9, 2023 rescission of the December 21st, 2022 resolution setting forth a contingent award of $7.7 million public safety radio system contract to CCI, a contract which the sheriff publicly favored, and to their recent reduction of the sheriff's budget. As will be set forth in further detail below, the sheriff is conflicted and compromised. It is purported investigation, parentheses, is the best at politically motivated effort to intimidate other elected officials from the free exercise of their discretion. Correspondence from Commissioner Moore to the Sheriff's Office detailing the conflicts of impropriety of investigation and exemplified by the Sheriff's grand jury subpoena. Consequently, the Commissioners request that this office undertake a full independent investigation of the circumstances stated below. And here are the circumstances. The roots of the issue. Upon information and the commissioners believe that the chain of events leading to this dangerous precipice was set in the motion shortly after Harry Williamson was appointed as Lorain County's 911 director in January of 2021. The full court press of L3 Harris radios begins. The first tangible evidence of possible impropriety April award is the $102,118 contract to CCI for the build out of the software at Lorain County's 911. In direct violation of Lorain County's bidding procedures, although the contract was in excess of $100,000, there was only 2 bids rather than the requisite of 3. Furthermore, witness testimony will establish that there was no simultaneous submission of bids. Instead, Vesu's $103,165.08 bid was presented to Lorain County on April 5th of 2021, and CCI's competing bid was received April 7th, 2021. Thus providing ample opportunity for Vesu's number and bid specs to be shared with CCI, which they were by Harry Williamson. I have the emails. The bidding process was driven by Lorain County's #1 director, Harry Williamson. Harry Williamson also sent Vesu's locution maps and drawings and everything, basically their intellectual property to CCI as well. Although this year bids and contracts for potential new public safety radio system had not yet been formally presented to the Lorain County Commissioners for consideration, the Commissioners recently learned on May 5th, 2021, CCI President Alan Close testified before Senate Committee on Local Government and Elections that CCI was in the business of providing communications equipment and services to first responders in certain cities and counties and would be doing so soon in Lorain County. How would you know that? No, we never signed a contract. We never signed anything with you. That was a month before the no bid contract was brought up to more. Mr. Close's Senate testimony begs the question of how and where he derived his confidence that CCI would soon have a contract with Lorain County. Michelle Hung, Harry Williamson. Subsequent related events are suggestive of an answer in an email dated June 14, 2021. The 911 director Williamson provided a purported agenda to Commissioner Hung and Moore and then County Administrator Williams and their respective assistants for a meeting that day in an ostensible purpose of information gathering, discussing 911 build-out radio project. In fact, Commissioner Moore and others would testify on a close. President CCI was present at the meeting itself. It was an improper effort to evade the sunshine laws and secure the requisite of 2 commissioner votes to award $6.4 million no-bid contract to CCI for the replacement of the Lorain County Safety Communications Network. When the real purpose of the 911 director Williamson's meeting became manifest, Commissioner Moore immediately left. However, others who remained in attendance came by testimony verifying that after Moore's departure, Williamson, Hung, and Close discussed alternative strategies for pushing CCI's multi-million-dollar bid contract through. CCI works through the first responders, and I'm not going to go through all of this, but they rallied the first responders, typically firefighters, police, sheriffs, a few cities, to jump on the CCI L3 Harris bandwagon. There's so many emails that are evidence of this. One being at 12/4/21, where I have thoroughly researched this project this past year and have been involved in the successful completion of this installation. Not even this past year, before she was even elected, like Reese said, she had promised the firefighters to help with this project. As will be discussed later, these efforts bore fruit, particularly in regard to the first responders. CCI's role as an architect of the strategy to work through the first responders unions. And that is the email that I showed you. Under pressure, local mayors to buy L3 Harris systems from CCI can be seen in attached January 27, 2021 email from Mr. Close, L3 Harris employees. The chiefs are now going to have the various unions send a letter to support for the CCI system to their respective mayors. In August 2021, Lorain County's bidding requirements were once again subverted to award a no-bid contract to CCI. Lorain County requires a competitive bidding contracts in excess of $50,000. August 20th, 2021, CCI submitted a $50,000 $1.58 requisition for equipment. Hold on. Equipment and installation charges. Capability of 5 cities, 700, 800 Harris radios, as reflected in the attached collective exhibit 8 in the November 23, 2021 letter. In contract, CCI reduced the effective contract to $49,000, so right underneath that $50K threshold. As a result, no other bids were obtained. Then 911 director, and we bought radios for the cities using county money, which is weird as hell anyways. Then 911 Director Williamson and Commissioner Hung support CCI's effort are beyond dispute. Email exchange between Close and Williamson attached. There's a bunch of them. I'm sorry for the delayed reply, but I've been out of the office. Commissioner Hung has been very well involved in this project. Has been out of the office for a while, whatever. the lead up to the bidding, all the shit that happened there. We're not going to go through all of this, but, Hung self-described cheerleading. She was going to do it. Reese said she was going to do it. She did it. She, started the war over the bid, even when the bid came out, ultimately after August 4th, 22 kickoff, response proposals were due. September 30th, at that time, there were 3 interested bidders, CCI, Motorola, and Vasu. Both CCI and Motorola requested an extension September 30th. CCI requested 14 days until October 14th. Motorola requested a longer extension of 45 days. Commissioner Hung, who in subsequent videotaped commissioners meetings in 2023 claimed sole responsibility for the board commissioner's decision to grant only CCI's request for the extension and deny Motorola's request for excessive. By that single act, 1 of 3 potential bidders was cut out of the process. The board subsequently received a proposal from CCI, a partial proposal from Vasu, and this is that phase 2 language I said when she rigged the bid. That's how they rigged the bid, is the language. And it's that phase 2, and it was inappropriate. It was so inappropriate. A letter of no bid from Motorola subsequently, December 21st, 2022, at a hastily scheduled meeting from which Commissioner Moore was absent. Commissioners Hung and Lundy, who failed in his re-election bid and was thus a lame duck, passed a resolution awarding a contingent contract to CCI. So the last day they're in power, a special meeting, 2 of them passed it. Commissioner Lundy's replacement, Commissioner Jeff Riddell, wasn't sworn into office January 9th based on their stated concerns about the integrity of the bid process. Moore and Riddell rescinded the contract. January 9th, Commissioners meeting, Lorain County Sheriff Bill Stimeti told Riddell, as reported in Lorain County Telegram, I think you forgot your oath of office is to serve and protect the citizens of Lorain County. I fear you will not be your own man and stand on your own feet. Sheriff's Office deputies also spoke at this meeting. The aftermath of the decision. Substantial evidence will demonstrate that since January 9th, considerable political and other pressure has been brought to bear on the Commissioner Moore and Riddell to reverse the position rather than proceeding with their stated intention to implement a new and more robust bid process. So further, CCI has returned to their strategy of leveraging first responders. At the 2/23/23 meeting, Lorain County Fire Chiefs Association meeting, Mr. Close of CCI was a guest speaker discussing CCI's intentions and to continue a countywide 700-800 radio system. As can be seen, new business at the February 23rd, 2023 meeting included 1, the sharing of Wellington resolution to support implementation of CCI. 2, that the Fire Chiefs Association would continue to support the forward motion of Harris County-wide system. 3, the passage of the motion requesting that the Lorain County Sheriff, who has been unambiguous for some time in his desire for the implementation of the system, be asked to start an investigation into the county commissioners and administrators' actions involving the Harris radio system. And I urge you guys all to go back to my episodes because I go over these in detail. Given this, hold on, sorry. Come on. Given this complicated and tortured history, the sheriff's purported investigation is tainted by conflicts of interest that should not be permitted to proceed. Nonetheless, the integrity of the competitive bidding process needs to be vindicated. Lorain County Commissioners believe that the fulsome investigation by a governmental entity, which is both without conflicts and beyond reproach, like this office, is required. Only then can citizens have confidence that the facts have been sifted through to separating potential impropriety or corruption from the normal political process. At your convenience, I would like to request the meeting on behalf of the commissioners to further discuss the history of events, which is incompletely summarized above. And then here are their exhibits. And there's 90 some odd pages of them, which we're not going to go through. But this is my point is, they deaded this investigation after I think it was the last thing was, I think Reese was the last one, August of 2022. There was really nothing going on. And then this letter was sent. And a couple weeks after this letter was sent was William Kapinski, and I played that recording earlier, called the sheriff's office and said, we're not going to look into this. And the last clip I'm going to play you guys before I go is, even though Greg Kapinski told the sheriff's office, we're not going to investigate you. We're not going to this, that, and other thing. And real quick before, real subject change real quick. Kapinski was friends with the Lorain captain who was also going in and attacking. The Lorain chief of police, McCann, who was going in and attacking the commissioners as well, which I find really interesting. That's why he also dropped it. But you see the cop thing, the cops, if a commissioner is going to an auditor's office complaining about a sheriff, a corrupt sheriff's office and a corrupt investigation, and it got worse. It got way worse. They started going after the prosecutor over this. They started going after, they went after fucking everybody over this. Greg Kapinski comes in and says, I'm not going, according to the bosses, we're not going to impede on your investigation. We're not going to look at your investigation. We're not going to do anything in your investigation, even though their entire investigation was this contract that Dave requested they look at. Now, Greg Kapinski, what I find interesting, though, did have time to go meet with a couple people. One being, called Van Zandt. Then immediately he met with Dave Moore to have a conversation. And then, months later, he met up with Dana Gollner, which I find really weird. And Dana Gollner's the extortionist who couldn't explain his job and tried to extort as a consultant, monies. But when Dave reheard from Greg Kapinski, I thought it was funny. Let's listen to what he had to say. And then, I'm.
Hey, how are you? I'm good. Yourself? Well, all right. Here's what I got. Yeah. I was asked by my boss in Columbus. Okay.
Hold on. That's the recording. Oh, did I play it here? I might have to put it in here. Oh no, I didn't put it in here. I'll see it's MP3. There, here we go. I didn't. Sorry.
Okay, this is what happens when you don't have a well, I call it a rigged bid, but when you don't go out for public bids, and one company's going to have only one bid, that's when we saw, okay, there's an extra $2 million that was built into that contract because they knew nobody else was bidding. So I'm telling you stuff that's not in here. I'm telling you what I lived and what you don't see. So a lot of things happened probably with us reversing that resolution on January 21st, because the way the prosecutor designed it is, as a county, I can't buy Wellington the radios because I'm buying those radios, but I'm giving you also a service contract that you have to pay monthly on. So they designed it so that if we buy those radios, you as a separate entity has to vote to accept them so that you are aware that you're now engaging in a contract for service, like your monthly fees for your radios. And so that was kind of like, when I saw that they were working towards that, because I told them, and the prosecutor will say, he believed me, it was, this smells bad, this is bad, we can't hear. So that's what.
Well, with the prosecutor, you shouldn't be saying what the prosecutor told the board. Unless.
So real quick, this is what he's saying is when they wanted the county, to buy these radios, based on what was built into the county's rules, is even the county prosecutor said, we can't do this because then the city's going to have to pass a resolution to pay the service, contract. They weren't supposed to use the money this way. This was inappropriate for the county to use the money this way to purchase radios. It was illegal. They shouldn't have been doing it. And the county prosecutor at the time, J. Thompson, asked for the commissioners to help them, figure this out.
Unless you have authority from.
Well, all I'm saying is what happened. So I don't. Thank you, attorney. But anyway, and so once they built in that they had 60 days after they voted, they had to get resolutions from the local communities. Then I knew we had her out to reverse that contract to protect the county from not only an $8 million purchase, but it also protects us. What it cost us 2024, I believe, to turn the whole county into a one radio system, which and what Jeff and I are doing now is we're trying to convert the county into interoperability. So let your local communities decide.
So he's saying when Michelle and Dave and Lundy passed that contract, the cities had 60 days to pass resolutions saying that they were going to accept the service fees and pay the service fees on their own. And because they hadn't done that yet, he was all within his rights to rescind that contract.
Okay, so when Stemeti got involved this year, and I hate to say it this way, but that's when everything turned political. And unfortunately, I believe you guys I hate to use the word, I think you might have said it too, which is a political football. This became a public fiasco. Michelle Hung has no, what do you call it, pride, soul, whatever. She doesn't care. And it's more of a destructive course. Samedi is a 25-year or 24-year sheriff. She's aligned herself with him. This is ugly politics at its worst. My friends at Cuyahoga County says we weren't that bad. I'm just telling you because I know I got a few buddies in Cuyahoga County that said, "Oh my gosh, we weren't this," and it's embarrassing. I'm embarrassed to say that was going on, but I felt that I had to turn a light on this. Did we stop anything from happening? Probably. Was there going on cash exchanging? I don't think we'll ever know. But to me, when I got here, I believe with the $50,000 that they took 3 to 4 months, the $102,000, and she went outside the circle to hire her brother. And the fact that when I talked to Todd Clark, he said, "You got her, boom, boom, boom." I said, "Okay, fine." But then when he said he got transferred, I went, "Oh, great." He goes, "Now it's going to somebody else."
He said now he's going to somebody else, and Dave said this is dead. The auditor is studying it. And then we hear Greg Kapinski clearly say, and I'm sorry, this is a really long live tonight, but Greg Kapinski really say that, we're not going to get involved with the sheriff's corrupt investigation. We're going to allow them to do what they did. And it got bad. I mean, it got freaking horrible. You can't even read in the paper. Here's, after the sheriff's investigation, they want a special prosecutor request. The radio probe continues. And then when the prosecutor said no to this, that's when they lost their minds. They literally lost their minds after the sheriff said, the prosecutor basically said no. You know what I mean? They lost their minds. And then you even have the sheriff, saying, this is when they said that we're going to investigate. And this is April, right before Kapinski came in May. It's launched an investigation of the way the county has gone securing a new emergency radio system for deputies. And when the prosecutor wouldn't get involved to help, the sheriff's office, it got ugly. It got really, really ugly. So when I said, Faber's failures, that's what I meant. He failed this county. They could have stepped in. And Todd Clark, like Dave just said, Todd Clark, came in and said, we got him on this, and this. It's not looking good. And then he's transferred. Then it deads. The whole investigation deads. Nothing comes of it. And then the state auditor's office, there's another letter sent by Dave. The state auditor investigator comes in and tells the sheriff, my boss is in Columbus, told me, we're not going to do anything. And even though this is the open investigation, it's not active. We're not looking at it. And we're not going to change our stance from 2022 where we said we're not getting involved. And my question is why? And this is not the first time that Dave's, when Dave was running against Sharon Suida, he reached out to the auditor's office about, campaign stuff with Sharon Suida, and they didn't do anything about that either. He reached out about this corruption, nothing. He reached out about corruption again, nothing. And, the one thing I will say is what I have an issue with the auditor's office about is Keith Faber, ex-cop, Kevin Monley, ex-cop, Todd Clark, ex-cop, Greg Kapinski, ex-cop, gang. So as a public official, if you have a corrupt sheriff, if you have problems with the sheriff weaponizing his office to go after his political opponents, who do you go to? What do you do? And the attorney general's not going to do anything. The attorney general. Then you got the auditor's office that has nothing but cops working in it, and the cops investigators. They're going to cover their own. Where is the third party? And this has cost, as you can believe me or not, this has cost the taxpayers of Lorain County millions of dollars. Millions in legal fees. We had Harry sue us. We had Michelle sue us. We had CCI continuing to sue us. I mean, they just wanted an appellate court to stay on our towers for another few months. They're using our taxpayer dollars, our taxpayer owned FCC license, our taxpayer owned water towers to run their system. Then they're charging us for the system. And all of our cities are stuck in these contracts because Michelle and Harry promised them that the county was going to take it over, knowing it wasn't. But like Michelle said, and Michelle, you can say with the prosecutor, I'll play this quick video and then we're going to, leave it. Our ending video will be, that phone call with Van Zandt again to remind you that Greg Kapinski, we're not going to look into anything. During election season, what did Michelle Hung say about, the prosecutor and the charges that the sheriff's office is bringing against the prosecutor, especially after the prosecutor denied a special prosecutor.
County Commissioner Michelle Hung says Tomlinson has repeatedly refused to look into issues she and others have raised and believes Lorain County does not have a prosecutor. Fellow Commissioner Dave Moore says the timing of the charges are suspect. He calls the situation bad for everyone and says it paints the county in an unflattering light. And
well, what issues did Michelle Hung have? What issues would the prosecutor not look into for Michelle Hung? The CCI, the only thing that Michelle Hung worked on her entire career as a commissioner, she is not known for anything else. The CCI radio contract. And Keith Faber, once again, failed us completely because he allowed his investigators and from his bosses in Columbus, I wonder who that is, Mr. Faber. They're not pursuing this. But then they can get involved in the county prosecutor's stuff. They can get involved with the sheriff to go after the county prosecutor and the commissioners. And they can weaponize their own office, even though there was clear corruption here. But do not be worried, Lorain County, because it is not over. I can't tell you what, I can't tell you when, and I can't tell you how, but it is not over. And if I were Keith Faber, I would be concerned. And, I am a Republican, but the last person I'm voting for Attorney General is Keith Faber. You can't even handle an investigation of bid rigging, bid steering, and clear as day, lawfare, because you got to help out your cops. Even though another public official is telling you that there's clear corrupt behavior and it's clear as day to anyone that can see it. So stay focused, Lorain County. I'm again going to leave this off playing Greg Kapinski because I just think it's so great. And what he said to Van Zandt. And then you all can have a great night. And sorry for the long podcast, but it was a lot to cover. I literally just did 5 years of ish in 2 hours, which is like really surprising. But I'm going to write an article on this. So if you didn't want to see this whole podcast, there's going to be an article out shortly. And I hope you guys all enjoy it and you all have a good night. And thank you for having me. I'll see you soon. Stay focused, Lorain County.
me to assure you and also the sheriff.
Yes.
Let me see my note here. That at no time will we interfere with the sheriff's office investigation.
Okay.
Or at no time will we ever ask the sheriff to use their term, stand down on their investigation.
Okay.
I'm just doing what the big guys
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
I'm also going to inform you that I cannot release this letter they sent us because we still have a open,
Right.
although currently not active investigation.
Got it. Yeah.
Our response was from one of our attorneys is that, let's see, we will not be altering the course of our investigation, or starting a new one based on these circumstances that they,
Thank you for joining me today on Mean Street. I hope you enjoyed the show. I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider supporting our work and supporting my effort. You can support directly underneath at the Spotify donations, or you can directly give a donation at paypal.me/Mean Street, Ohio. Any donation received will help me continue to provide news to you and everyone else across Ohio and beyond. I love what I do, and I just hope to continue to do it. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me today on Mean Street. I hope you enjoyed the show. I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider supporting our work and supporting my effort. You can support directly underneath at the Spotify donations, or you can directly give a donation at paypal.me/Mean Street, Ohio. Any donation received will help me continue to provide news to you and everyone else across Ohio and beyond. I love what I do, and I just hope to continue to do it. Thank you so much, and you have a wonderful day.